Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Deckology, a podcast about playing cards. And in this episode, I am talking to you guys specifically about my experience at Cardistry Con. I open up the Orbit Cardistry Con edition deck and play with it a little bit. And I talk about what I learned what I learned from filming card stuff, some of my observations while filming, some tips for filming, and some tips for performing when being filmed, all in this episode. I was going through the footage and it was a pretty light day on day 3, so I was just kind of like, I don't really want to make just like a 2 to 3 minute video, so I figured I would just overlay some of the footage with me talking about the day, which was basically the highlight of the day for me was seeing everybody, like the big group photo at the end, where then they did the big group photo, but then seeing everybody like spray cards up. I thought that was pretty sweet. Also, there was like a night party, like a thing going on at night. I didn't film a whole lot there. I just ended up kind of actually talking with people without a camera for quite a bit there, which was pretty good. It was a good time. So first off, the deck of the day is, if you are listening, I'm holding up the Orbit Cardistry Con edition. I haven't opened this one yet, actually, and so I figured this would probably be a good time for this episode. It's brand new. Orbit was one of the drops there, and it's got like the San Diego border going on, or like the skyline in the background, which I thought was pretty cool. It's got like a beachy theme to it, and I haven't seen a whole lot of people play with these cards, and I kind of feel like it might partially be due to the fact that it's like a very much a one-way design, which is pretty cool when you riffle fan it, which you don't see a lot from Orbit. So, but yeah, it's got a pretty sweet background. That's about all I got to say. Greetings from Cardistry Con San Diego is what the little ad cards say right here. I think it's pretty cool that they design decks for Cardistry Con. If you're listening, I'm just holding up the 2 little ad cards, so make sure you go to the YouTube channel to check that out. Because you know what? I actually realized I didn't even upload the Fontaine episode onto Spotify or any of the podcast platforms, because I just wasn't even thinking about it when I was uploading it. That's how much I'm focused on YouTube lately. Shout out to everybody too for getting us past 100 subscribers in the first month. That is probably the coolest news of 2022 for me. I've been able to have such great conversations outside of the podcast with everybody, kind of continuing on the conversations about card collecting, about the winter blues. It seems like us in the Midwest here in the US of A are hit by it pretty hard. So hang in there. As of recording this on December 22nd, the days are getting longer now. So we got past the decline of the daytime length, and we are on our way back up. Fingers crossed. It's supposed to be like wind chill of -30 coming in though here in Indiana. So prayers up. Okay, so let's talk about Cardistry Con back when it was the summertime in beautiful San Diego. The very first thing, I didn't even put this video out yet, was the Art of Play Jam that was going on. That's where I got to see cardistry and film cardistry for the very first time. I've never seen it the way that I saw it before that, and people really came out swinging at that little card jam that was going on there. Little did I know, when I first got into San Diego, I was finishing up a project for work. I was still having to edit, and I realized I went to the coffee shop where it was being hosted. I thought Art of Play was actually like its own storefront, but it's actually a part of this old aircraft hangar that is kind of a James coffee shop, as well as a couple other spots are in there. Like a hair place was in there when I was there last. Anyways, everybody was just hanging out there, and that was pretty sweet to be able to just like kind of get a surprise. I walked in, and as I walked past, I was like, that's a lot of deck of cards on a wall. And anyways, So day actual one for me was the Art of Play Jam that was going on. And then I started a long 2-mile uphill both ways, basically kind of thing. It is really hilly there in San Diego. And it was a hot walk with, my backpack and my bag and my roller, all of that stuff. That was a pain. But we got there. I stayed at an Airbnb. It was like a bedroom. It was like a bedroom, a part of an apartment. It was really cheap. And next time, if I were to do things differently, I would definitely want to roommate up with somebody, because what I noticed for me, at least when I was there, and I imagine it's like this for a lot of other people, when you go to any kind of an event, where there's a lot of the people that are there because of very, 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 very specific reason. And it would be fun to be able to kind of like jam out with everybody at the end of the night, versus just kind of go back and then just hang out solo. Because I still didn't know a whole lot of people, and there were nights that I didn't spend like a ton of time there, but it was still just kind of like, looking back, that was the one thing that I would definitely do different. But it was also coordinating it and trying to get people. Now I actually know more people in the community. Day one happened. It was a good time. There was a lot of happening, and there's a lot of card jamming. That was all cool. It was really just kind of getting comfortable. What was really nice was, for me, I love being able to have a camera with me, because it's kind of like it's like an icebreaker, and it was a way for me to be able to meet a lot of people, because I was just being able to go up to them like, can I film you doing card things? And everybody was down to be filmed. And it was kind of interesting. One thing that I noticed was some people came in ready with a little card routine of sorts. And then other people were really trying to do stuff that they had never done before. And it would be like take after take after take after take after take. So let that just be a lesson to anybody that watches card videos. Nobody really ever lands the thing that they're going for the first time. I know that because I have a lot of footage of people. Hold on, let me get one more. So that part. So my advice to anybody that is going to Cardistry Con again, and you want to do any kind of card flourishes for people, have something kind of ready that you're going to do for a lot of the cameras. And that's when I also learned that I'm not a huge fan of long, exaggerated packet cuts. That's just not something I like. I like when there's cards flipping, flying, flare it out. I don't care for long, intricate, takes forever to like position itself packet cuts. I can appreciate it, but I get bored by it. Like, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, all right, here we go. But like when people land things that like, it comes down to like perfect timing, and it just like, I feel like if there's a little bit of luck involved is when I really enjoy watching those card moves. There'd be times that people would do stuff where all of a sudden like 3 packets emerge, and then they're like flipping one and all of that. And I was like, what just happened? And I'd have to film again. So I learned how not to film some cardistry moves. But I wanted to take a different approach when I was filming this, because I see a lot of the cardistry videos out there, and I think they're really cool because they're able to accentuate the cardistry moves that are happening with the camera movements. So I think that is really creative, and a sign that you know what you're doing with the camera, especially when filming. I took a little bit different of an approach. I still used a wide lens for a lot of the film that I did, but I tried to do a from a distance zoomed way in kind of a shot for a lot of different shots. I just thought those looked kind of cool, and it was a little bit different. Some I hadn't seen a whole lot of, but I definitely still would go in with a wide lens and just kind of do like a small orbiting effect. I didn't do a whole lot of like fast movement, but just slow orbiting effects, because I also didn't know what a lot of people were doing. So I didn't know how to necessarily play to the camera movements or play to the card movements with the camera movements, if that makes sense. that was like, so I was a learning experience for me of just kind of figuring out how to film people doing things with cards. But it was really cool and relieving that everybody just was so chill about it. Like, it was really, I didn't experience any uptight people there. And I think that's partially because nobody's going to go to Cardistry Con that doesn't want to be there. Like, it would be really, really weird for somebody to be there and be like, oh, I'm still here. Ugh. So I thought it was pretty cool, the fact that everybody was so open to it. I wasn't sure what to expect with that, but there was a lot of people with cameras there. That part did kind of surprise me. There's a lot of videographers and photographers and creatives in this industry, which I don't know what the common denominator is amongst us, but there is something there where there's a lot of people. I saw people there with Sony A7S IIIs, which is a $3,500 camera body and like a $1,200 lens attached to it. So like some people rented that. I saw some people just owned it. I was using the camera I'm filming this podcast on right now, the Sony A7 III, and I was like, dang, I don't even have like that good of equipment to be here right now. So that was an interesting observation. There was definitely people show up in a big way with the camera stuff. And now that I think about it too, I got a lot of good stuff with the GoPro 10. This thing, I wish I used this more. The colors were great right out of the camera. It was wide enough so then it captured everything, but it could shoot in such high resolution you could zoom in, and so I didn't miss a lot with it. Whereas with this camera, I would, like, if you're listening, I'm showing off the depth of field. What would happen is, like, I would get too close to somebody while they would do something, and the camera would get out of focus. If I have some footage of that, I'll show it. I'll throw it on screen. But yeah, so I'm running a focus. So I realized, okay, don't shoot at like just because your lens goes down to a 1.4 aperture doesn't mean you need to do that. It's actually pretty good to be shooting at like f4, f5.6, f6.3, something basically where a lot of things can be in focus. And so that the autofocus doesn't just pick up on something really close and then you miss, and then it tries to track as the card movements are going back and forth, back and forth. So that was just something I learned when filming. And I got a lot of decks of cards. Day one, walked out there with quite a few decks. Day two happened, and there was just as much happened, but I was a lot more comfortable I was kind of familiar with people at that day, which is when I approached them with the green deck and then started going around asking people to do stuff with the green deck, which I thought was pretty sweet that everybody was willing to help me out with that. Because I had like a much bigger plan than what you saw in the video to do more with that. But I learned what not to do when filming that. So for example, like having people, so it, like basically what I would end up doing is I would have them like kind of I would have them kind of like hold the deck up, and then I would have them go into their routine. Because then that would allow me to like kind of transition from one scene to the other at any point. So I'd definitely start by doing that. What I would do differently though would be I would go in with a camera. So I would have them hold it, and then I would punch in with the camera versus having them go into it with the camera. Because then what happens, and what happened before, was a shadow would basically go onto the green because like the camera or the way that the lighting was there. And then it was like hard to key the green out of it because it would change shades of green. So looking back, that's what I would do differently is basically I would go in with the camera versus having them go in with the camera, if that makes sense. So just another camera tip if you are interested in doing green deck card camera stuff. What else? So day two was definitely the most like action-packed day that we had. And it was cool because of the whole like the A1 5K run. I actually ended up hanging out with I walked the whole thing. I was not going to run that thing. So I met the guys that had designed the Matthew color shift and Nathan. I met Matthew and Nathan that designed the missing analog deck, and they were just kind of like hanging out. And so I ended up walking around with them too during that 5K. We took a minor detour, but we got there. We got to that fried chicken place, which was really good and really packed. So, but then again, it was like I got back to the Airbnb, and I was like, I don't want to just like sit here right now. I was like kind of wanted to hang out with people, but you know, it was good. I was able to recharge, transfer footage, and it didn't feel like I was always having to be filming or something. But so it was really cool to be able to see what anyone was doing with that whole 5K. Thought that was cool that they gave out a deck from that, which ended up selling, I think, down the road anyway. Then, yeah, like I said, day 3, it was just like they gave out awards. They didn't even give out awards, actually. It was just acknowledging from 2019, 2020, and then 2021, acknowledging winners and people of like move of the year, deck of the year, all that stuff. I'd wish that they had like shown more, but I think it was like a little bit different because of the way that like they were like, because it got canceled in 2020, that they were like kind of throwing a bunch in, like a lot was happening, but I would have liked to see like videos of like the moves of the year, the video of the year, things like that. So I didn't get to see some of it, and I didn't know a lot of it either. I wish they had like pictures of the people that won. Like I just don't know any of the faces and the names necessarily. So I didn't know who or what I was looking at, but it was still pretty sweet. It was cool seeing the acknowledgement of people that are like doing some things in the industry. Could I tell you who and what they did? I don't know, but I thought it was pretty cool. There's a lot of videos. I think there was like a magician or somebody that spoke that was like kind of throwing some shade maybe. He was like, you guys are just watching videos here. I was like, dang. I can't remember even the guy's name. But there was a lot of videos that I thought, I thought it was pretty cool though. I think people showed up with some pretty sweet videos, and watching people's reactions to the video, there was a special kind of energy in the room, and you could see a lot of the reactions to those videos over on Caleb's Cardistry Talks YouTube channel. He would post the reactions to those people's videos, like when they were airing the video, and that was pretty sweet because people got pretty lit during those presentations. So that was pretty sweet. I would like to go again. Will I go again if it's in when it's in London? I think is where it's at. It's over in Europe. I understand why they got to go worldwide. It's a worldwide kind of thing. I thought it was really cool seeing the fact that there was so many people from all around the world there, which was pretty sweet. Seeing like how far some people would travel. I think the person that traveled the furthest, they gave out an award for it. Actually, it was like 30 some hours to get to San Diego from where he was from. That's nuts. So I can't decide if I'm going to make it to the next one or not. We'll see. I love the idea of going to Europe, but I also love the idea of going with a group of people. Because I've never left the country. I'm from middle of nowhere, Indiana, here in the United States. So, traveling abroad solo seems rather intimidating for me. So, but yeah, I can't decide. We'll see. We'll see what the schedule brings this year. But otherwise, my only thing, so a couple of things that I would that I would like to see next time would be actual, like, it'd be cool to see like a competition of some sort where it's like a live competition. I don't even know what necessarily that might look like, but kind of like where it's like people, so they did like the padiddle thing, like where they spin cards for however long, but it'd be cool to see like more of that kind of stuff. So like immediately what comes to my mind is like longest combo, who's doing like cardistry moves the longest without messing up, stuff like that. Because I like the idea of that like bring people up on stage and have them do stuff until there's like the last person standing. I thought that was pretty cool the way that they did that. And I'd like to see more of that. I think they did a good job of doing giveaways, especially just for random stuff. And the Dan and Dave one where everything was taped under their seat, that was really cool too. I think the other change that I would have, and I don't think they even had the control over it, was just the venue setting for it. Like there was this pole that was right in the middle of everything. That was kind of annoying to work around. Not as annoying though as that really bright screen that was behind the speakers. It was an exposure nightmare trying to get photos or video of people when that stuff was happening. I don't know how they've done it necessarily in the past, but that was tricky. That made capturing things a little bit tricky on stage. But I was able to get from the side and I was able to get some pretty good shots. But it was still kind of a pain, but it looked really cool. So I don't know what that's worth, but that's so like I really want to change a whole lot of other things about it though, because I think the event itself served its purpose. It brought people together to card jam in real life. It acknowledged people that were doing something in the industry and gave awards out to them. I don't think there's actually physical awards, which would be kind of cool to see what like a cardistry trophy would look like. I'd make like golden decks. I would have like a golden deck of cards that was specially made. That's like a gold, silver, and bronze deck. I would just do something like that. Maybe it's just a tuck case even, but that's what I would do. If I were to make those videos again, I think what I would do differently is I would do some more interviews. I would do some more interviews with people. Yeah, I would do interviews with people at Cardistry Con, so I can actually try to tell more of a story of like what Cardistry, like why they showed up, why did they travel across the world to be there. So that's definitely something I wish I had done differently. And if I go again, I will do differently. I'll probably just end up taking a whole podcast setup and just doing some episodes there if I go again. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to figure out what that might look like, how much that's going to cost, and what I need to figure that out. That's it for this episode. Thanks for checking it out. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like and all of that good YouTube stuff. The next episode of Deckology, which will probably come out rather sooner than later, I'm going to be hitting on some of the recent cardistry world news, and we'll get to that. So be looking out for another episode here shortly after this episode.